So what have I learned from this project, apart from the fact that it is very, very messy? I have learned a few things. Number one is it's a project best tackled with two brushes. A large 10 centimetre brush and a smaller 3 centimetre brush. It was a square brush to start with. I've actually gone through one of these per side of the house because it will wear out on the mortar. The other thing I have learnt is that technique is pretty important. With the first coat, it's really easy to see where you have whitewashed and where you haven't, but with your subsequent coats, you can't really see that because everything is white. So by following a pattern, you're able to make sure that you don't miss any patches. Another thing I have learnt is that when your whitewashing solution gets down to about half of what I have in here at the moment, to mix another batch and mix this batch with it for an even coverage. Otherwise, new mixtures tend to be not as opaque as when you get down to the bottom of the bucket, because the hydrated lime settles there. It basically becomes a thicker coat. So by doing that mix before I get to the bottom, I can keep my coat and coverage fairly even. I've also learned that that's important when it comes to actually taking the lime, like try and dip your brush right to the bottom to keep that sediment mixed into the mixture for best results. So I'm going to show you the technique that I have worked out. I've got quite deep mortar lines on my brick, and this is how it works for me. So I use the small brush and I paint along the top of my bricks. Now remember, these bricks have been wet with a hose. I didn't need to pressure wash them today because I pressure washed them all yesterday. So once you've pressure washed once, as long as there's not a big gap between the time you're working and everything is clean, you don't have to do it again, but you will have to wet your bricks every time you whitewash, including when you're putting a subsequent coat on. There must be 24 hours between coats as well for it to go off properly. So I do the top line and then I paint all the upright lines in the area that I'm working on. About a 3 brick width line is good, like that. You don't want to be working on areas larger, and if you need to stop, try and stop at a corner or an end of a wall. So I go with my small brush and I just repeat that, painting the uprights so I don't skip any, and painting the bottoms. Just like this. I'll do one more row and then I'll use the flat brush and fill in. When you fill in and you're doing like the actual big wash over the bricks, the main thing that I've learnt with that is you don't want to be leaving half a brick. In the time that it takes you to finish that section of wall and come back up, you will actually see the half painting on the brick, and that brick will be darker on one half than on the other. So you do a section. I normally go all the way as far as I can, where I can cleanly see the mortar lines all the way around the bricks on the step ladder, and then I do it at standing height. This wall's a little bit shorter than the rest, so I'm just standing on the floor to show you this one. I just missed a bit here on the top of that third brick. There we go. So then when I get my flat brush to fill in, you can go, I like to go in one direction all the way and then come back in the other direction, not leaving half bricks. So even if the mortar isn't painted around that brick, I'll catch that on my next run. You just don't want to leave any half bricks. So by continuing to do that pattern, I'll get a nice even coverage, and I can get away with doing, for the look that I'm after, two coats on a wall. Now the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, so you can see that it's really, really see-through at the moment. This is the first coat. The wall over here has also only had one coat. But as time goes, like the 24 hours, it will opaque up like that. And so you can see how different it looks. And so the more that you want, the more coats you need to do. Cleanup is a bucket of soapy water and a nylon brush and scrub. If you want a more brick showing through, people do pressure wash their whitewash and sometimes use a brush too to remove some of it. But I think that gives quite an artificial look, and so I'm letting the house weather by itself, and I'll watch it over the next few years, and if there's a point that we like it, I'll know next time that's how long, every so many years before I redo it again. As I mentioned before, whitewashing is not a permanent technique. I reckon about 7 years at most if it's exposed to weather before it all washes off. But if you'd like a different look to your unsealed bricks, whitewashing is definitely a great choice compared to paint, which will, because bricks take in moisture, paint will flake and you will end up with a permanent upkeep job. Whereas if you have enough of whitewash, you can just let it fade, or you can pressure wash it off and scrub with a brush, and it'll go back to how the brick was before you did it. So I'm going to keep going now, and I'll show you what the project looks like at the end.